Welcome back. I'm Kathleen.
I'm Kim.
And you're here for Uncomfortable Conversations with the K&K Twins.
Speaking of uncomfortable, you should see how technically inept we are. This is so every time. It's so ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, this took us 3 tries.
So this is a miracle that we're even here.
That we're here.
Just know that we are committed.
Oh, we are so committed. So last time we talked about the lack of objectivity, what leads to it, what it looks like. Mm-hmm. So this episode is going to be a little shorter. We're going to talk about some of the defense tactics that we use to avoid reality. Mm-hmm. Okay, to avoid dealing with our stuff in reality. So
and really how lack of objectivity looks in our day-to-day lives, what it looks like in our behavior on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
So if any of these things, if you see yourself in any of these things, make note and go, okay, these might be things I need to modify, but you're not going to see yourself in all of them, and that's okay. So don't be tricked into thinking that you're not codependent because you don't meet all of them. Don't be in denial.
That's right. Don't be in denial. You probably need some of them. But again, we're working out of this book, Untangling Relationships. Yes. It's by Pat Springle. Okay, so we just wanted you to see that.
Okay.
So the first defense mechanism we use is one-way perception, and we talked about this last episode as well, because really, most codependents are really perceptive people. We're very good at it because it was kind of it was a survival technique for us as children, especially. So we're very perceptive. We can read moods. We can, read your vibe. Yeah. We had to sometimes sense the mood of, like, if my dad came home, was he in a good mood, a bad mood? Is he quiet? Is he brooding? Do we need to be quiet? Is it okay if we play or make noise or whatnot? We had to constantly be reading the room.
Yeah. We're great at reading people's body language and modifying our behavior to fit in with them.
Right.
But
that's a one way.
That's all we see.
We see others very clearly. We do not see ourselves, which is typical of a lot of people, but codependents especially, to a much higher degree. So I am going to be very able to see your stuff.
Oh, she's great.
But I don't see my stuff.
No. And
that's why I need her.
I can say to her, that's like, you're totally triggered right now, and your response is way stronger than it should be. And she's like, what?
So I feel like, I've always felt like, it's so funny because I think back, I just cringe now when I used to say, oh yes, I'm so self-aware. Yes. We talked about this last time. Yeah, I see my stuff and I'm really good at owning my stuff. No, I was not. No, I did not see myself. So that's why it's really good to walk this journey with someone that's safe, that you trust, that's emotionally safe for you. And that's why, again, we're such a gift and a blessing to each other, because we walk through this together.
And we had no idea that this was going to happen.
No, this is
we've known each other
for
years. And this has only been the last couple of years that we've walked through this together. So.
And figured this out. So we're doing this together.
Quite a blessing. But and you may be doing this with a counselor or a therapist. You may start a group. And find somebody in there, but be looking for somebody that you can be really authentic and transparent with, that will hold you accountable and tell you the truth in love.
Accountability.
Yeah.
So maybe a book club.
Yeah.
Maybe a Bible study. Maybe just a couple of close friends. And you can do this by Zoom too. If you have people you can just Zoom with. But it's better in person. But I have some friends that live in other states, and so we've talked about maybe doing this virtually. Because I know a lot of codependent people, but
of course we do.
But really,
we surround ourselves with them. We surround ourselves with people like us.
And this perception, this strong ability to hone in on people and perceive other people's issues, really, this is how we develop the ability to be people pleasers. We figure out what people want and what they need, and we try to give them that. That's how we become, that's how we lose our identity, to become what other people want us to be, to keep them happy.
Doesn't that sound crazy?
It does sound crazy.
I mean, really, to lose your own identity, to make other people feel comfortable around you, or to make sure you feel safe, even.
Extreme people pleasing. Yeah, in an abusive situation, to try and keep your own safety, you would have to make sure that other person was happy.
That could be emotionally safe or physical safety. So
and so we become what they want in order for us to please them and gain approval from them. We may want their approval. So we become perceptive and people pleasers, but really what we become is little puppets dancing on these strings for the people that we want to please.
Yeah.
You know, like they pretty much control us in because
again,
we're just little...
We're so desperate for love.
Yep.
We're so desperate for love that we will do anything to feel it, even if it's not real. And when I say that, I mean like we're not being authentic and we're not really being ourselves, so they don't really love us.
Right?
But
They love who they think we are, or who the facade that we present to the world. And there's something very raw and vulnerable about really allowing ourselves to be ourselves and be loved for who we really are. And I think when we have the kind of childhood that we may have had, that we are so terrified that if someone really sees us, really gets to know us, they will reject us. They will not love us. We will be found to be lacking. We will not be good enough. But the point of this healing process, this healing journey, is to get to the place where we're healthy enough to find people who will accept us for who we are, will love us unconditionally, and that we don't have to change for these other people to accept us.
And that's actually, it's new in my life.
It is very new.
But it's an amazing feeling. But even when you started talking about that vulnerability, like I literally felt pain in my stomach. Like it made my stomach kind of flip.
Right.
You know, it's a real challenge. And I am in a relationship now where I get to be me. I choose to be me, but I also get to be me all the time.
And it's safe.
It's safe. And
it's beautiful.
It is, but it really feels uncomfortable sometimes because it's different than any relationship I've ever had. And so sometimes she has to talk me down from the ledge because I want to run, which is crazy. Who wants to run from something that's wonderful and beautiful? Somebody who's been lived in an unhealthy and broken.
Yeah.
So, but it's worth it.
It is, and codependents are usually amazed when someone points out their blind spots, when someone points out how they can't see their own stuff.
Right.
So in the beginning, it was hard for Kim and I to see our stuff. And so when someone pointed it out, we'd be like, when she would say to me, Kathleen, you know, you're really triggered right now, or you're not seeing this clearly, or that's a codependent response, I'd be like, what?
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff we
Is
say
it
to
really?
each other.
What? And then I think, okay, she's right. Let me think this through. If you're open to hearing truth, it will really, it's going to set you free.
Well,
it's going to help you.
We trust each other. So I know if she says that to me, I need to listen because I'm missing the mark. She's not going to guide me wrong because she, again, sees things more clearly than I do for myself. So
and vice versa.
So if she tells me I'm having a really codependent reaction to something, I go, whoa. I literally say, tell me why, where.
Right.
Which is different because the old Kim would have been like, no, I'm not. No.
You don't tell me. You're not the
I'm-
boss of me.
That's
her
I still
favorite
say
line.
that.
You're not the boss of me.
I still say that. And she was my boss, by the way, which is really funny.
It's
But
funny,
yeah. But
we're bad. And Kim and I are both, well, we'll get to the next one. The next one is emotional walls.
Oh.
So we put up these emotional walls.
Yes.
Okay. This is something we also both do. When you build walls around yourself, it helps block out the pain. It does. But it blocks out everything because you can't pick and choose what emotions you let past the wall. The wall is the wall, right? So it's all or nothing. So sometimes we're unable to see how our actions and our words affect others around us. So the walls it seems like that it blocks the pain, but it blocks the good stuff. It keeps us from experiencing those good emotions like love and warmth and acceptance and joy and all of those things. So we can become very unemotional.
It makes us dead inside.
It does.
Really?
And there was a period I went through that where I felt like, I remember telling my friend, I just feel numb. I feel numb. I don't feel anything, and I'm scared. It scared me because I didn't feel anything. No matter what happened, I was just like...
It is scary because we're created with these feelings and with these emotions and these ebbs and flows. So it's one thing to protect ourselves and not feel pain, but when you realize you don't even have joy, I mean, isn't that in part how you are when you're depressed?
Right?
Like really?
Yeah, sure.
Like, you have the inability to feel anything, and so.
Because you're dying inside when you get to a certain point where you've
so
lost
I think
yourself.
Probably was when I was in that place I was dead. I was probably depressed as well.
Probably, me too as well.
I never thought about that, but I probably was.
And this is why we say, Kim and I are both runners.
Yeah.
So when we get in relationships where things get uncomfortable or if something gets too close or we think that there's the possibility of pain. Like when she first started dating this new fellow, and he was so good, but he was getting close and he was accepting her and he was loving her for who she was. It was so uncomfortable when we're not used to it. It's not our familiar dynamic. It's not dysfunctional.
No.
We're so used to dysfunctional that when healthy comes along, it is terrifying. It is foreign.
It is.
It feels uncomfortable.
And
her saying, I can't. I've got it. I'm done. I got to get out. I said, this guy is fantastic. I love this guy. What are you talking about? He's different than all the others that you dated. I'm like, just breathe through this. Let's talk about it. Like, let's talk about it. What are you feeling? Why are you feeling this? What are you afraid of? We had to walk through this whole thing.
I still do sometimes.
Yeah. And then like just certain things happen and she's like, okay, that's it. I'm out. Well, okay, let's.
He did something nice one day and I literally tried to figure out how to get out of the moving car. Like, how do I get out of the car and run in the opposite direction without getting hurt?
It was crazy.
That is not normal. When your response to loving, kind, generous behavior is to flee. But that's what happens when you've had these unhealthy relationships. When you get something that's healthy, you don't even recognize it.
Right.
And it feels very unnatural.
Very unnatural. And she did the same thing with me. With a guy, I was like, okay, this is too much. I'm out. I'm done with this. She's like, whoa,
fine.
Breathe, just calm down. We're not used to healthy.
Yeah.
So we had referred to a book in one of the previous episodes called Women Who Love Too Much by Robin Norwood.
I believe so.
I think it was Robin Norwood. Women Who Love Too Much. We highly recommend it. It really segues well with this book, Untangling Relationships. It just matches it almost chapter for chapter. But in that book, she talks about how codependence, when you're in these yes, there you go. Up a little closer.
I can't see.
Yeah, there you go. Not quite that close.
Okay. Okay, I can't see. Sorry.
Anyway, Women Who Love Too Much. So it talks about how codependent women, we have to learn. We have to teach ourselves how to be in healthy relationships, how to accept healthy relationships, how to receive love, and how to give love back in a healthy way. We are typically, like they talk about in a lot of these case scenarios, we are attracted to the wounded and the broken, the bad boys, those that seem to need fixing. They've got issues.
That are exciting.
Right? That we think are exciting because they help us avoid dealing with our stuff.
Really, it's just creating drama.
But it creates drama. It does. And it prevents us, it's really a defense mechanism from dealing with our own stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we have to learn how to be comfortable in healthy situations.
Yes.
How to accept someone who treats us well. We're not used to it.
No.
And we're like, oh, they're boring. They're boring. Well, no, they're not boring. They're just healthy and normal. And there's no drama and chaos associated with it. There's not all the pain, all the rejection, all the controlling and manipulation. So that's why
we don't know how to function.
We don't.
But
it's
I'm
sad.
learning.
It's sad.
But I'm really learning.
We are learning.
We are learning. Yeah.
We're learning together.
So
I know,
doing so great.
right?
You're doing so
we'll
great.
see. We'll see. So we're trying to. So again, it's so important that if you have someone that you can walk this journey with, you've really got to have a true sounding board, someone that can mirror back to you truth.
Yes.
Because we don't see it always. And we need it. So, okay.
Okay.
So that's number 2 was emotional walls.
Yeah.
Number 1 was one-way perception. Number 2 is emotional walls. Number 3.
Number 3 is extremes. So that's where you see things as black and white. It's either 100 or 0. Like there's no in between. And so a lot of times when we are like that, we kind of live in chaos because we create these grandiose scenarios to function in these extremes, which is kind of crazy.
Right.
But life is full of shades of gray.
We don't
actually have to live in chaos. And we live, as codependents, we tend to live in an extreme or exaggerated form. So a lot of times what we do is we choose words that are more intense and more powerful because, frankly, we like and want the attention, which is not healthy, again, because we're desperate for love and acceptance. So we do these things that make us sound more interesting or exciting, or we say it has to be 100%, or it's always great, or it's always terrible.
Right? Everything's wonderful. It's terrible.
It really isn't.
It's not.
One bad thing that happens in your day does not make a horrible day.
Right? Life is ruined.
Right. It's really
so dramatic.
It's so dramatic.
So trauma.
But really, that is how we are sometimes, and so we have to be really mindful that that's not actually healthy.
Right.
Or real. That's not the truth.
It's not the truth. So, like she said, the words that we choose, our actions that we choose, our attitudes, all of those things display certain mindsets that get people. It's a manipulation.
It's manipulative.
Because we're trying to maybe elicit their sympathy, right? Maybe we want to.
Or attention.
Or compassion. Or maybe it is to spur these people to action, to manipulate them. So when somebody calls, maybe a child calls their parent and says, oh, Mom, Dad, I need money. I can't pay rent this month. And, oh, Mom, you just can't believe how unreasonable landlord is. And they just give you all the sob stories. But we never stop to ask, well, where did your money go? I did notice that you had that new Coach purse, but you didn't pay your rent. So maybe before you buy the Coach purse, you pay your bills, you pay your rent and everything first. Then you buy your pretty things with the money that's left over.
Right.
So let's talk about
money,
right, or let's talk about responsible money management.
Yeah.
We don't do that because they elicit these crisis scenarios all the time. It's all high drama. Everything is extremes and exaggerations. So, the sky is always falling because they're trying to manipulate. They're trying to get that attention and make you feel sorry for them and help them, rescue them. Save me, save me.
And that's part of the codependent cycle is
it
that
is.
we do rescue.
We do.
We do
we
to
will.
save them because,
we're enablers.
Yeah.
Because I can think of times and examples with parents and children, or just anybody, a friend. I had a friend who was constantly in crisis mode, but I noticed after a while, she made really poor life decisions. She just made bad decisions, bad choices. And then when the consequences of those bad choices came in the natural order of life, when those things happen, she would run around crying for help, and people, oh, help me, look what's happening. Everyone would rush to her aid.
Yeah.
Well, nobody sat back long enough to look and see how she got into that situation. And I'm not saying we judge everybody's motives and we judge everything, but I'm just saying when you have a person that, patterns. If you're looking at patterns of constantly in need, constantly in crisis, constantly needing to be rescued, it may be that person is making bad choices, and maybe they're doing it for the attention. They want to feel loved or that someone's there to help them, but maybe they need to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet, and we need to stop enabling them. We're going to talk about that later, the savior complex.
For sure.
So we're going to get to that, but we often exaggerate.
Oh yeah. I can say as a child especially, I really did that. I really wanted attention. I really wanted attention.
So we
Which
make
might be
things
how I
seem,
am too.
we
now
just make situations seem worse or wonderful,
Yeah, but just everything.
When they really are.
I mean, I remember as a child telling people, because I thought it was more impressive that my parents were like a doctor and a nurse, which is not right. But I mean, they were in the medical field, so somehow in my head, that just made it even better. You know what I mean? And my parents are amazing. So why did I need to exaggerate? I thought it would get attention. And, I think sometimes as children especially, any attention is good attention.
Right.
Especially if you feel like you're not loved and you feel like nobody really cares about you. You are desperate to have somebody acknowledge you and pay attention. And so exaggerating is a great way to get that.
And feel more important.
Yeah.
Just give yourself a sense of importance or impress people.
Yeah.
But it really causes others to be more concerned than they might be if you just told them the truth.
And
what the
it's not
situation
true.
really was. I bought this Coach purse and now I can't
Yeah.
pay my rent. Any way you could, spot my rent?
Right.
No, take the Coach purse back. But you know what I'm saying? So.
Right. But really the work that we're doing here is to be healthy, and healthy people have boundaries. Healthy people don't rescue people who are healthy. People don't exaggerate. You know what? The truth is good enough.
Right. The truth is good.
That we don't have to exaggerate because really, we're already great.
Right.
So when you know what I mean, when you already know who you are, the truth is just the truth. But sometimes when we're in that healthy place, we don't know that.
Right. And So if you think, contrast this with healthy people. Healthy people understand that there is good and there is evil that exists at the same time.
Yeah.
They exist in tension with each other, but there's both good and bad in the world.
Yes.
Not everything's horrible, not everything's wonderful.
Right.
There's just usually that kind of in between. Some things are bad.
And that's most of the time.
Right?
Most of the time is the in between. It's the shades of gray.
But codependents give up one to embrace the other for an end purpose, for like attention or to impress or get sympathy, and that leads to that black and white thinking, that extreme thinking. But this exaggerated view of the world tends to lead to these emotional swings.
Yes.
Oh, everything's wonderful. Oh, everything's so great. Oh my gosh, life is ending. It's just so awful. So the sky is falling. Chicken Little Henny Penny thing. So
for sure. Can we go to the next one, because
this is a big one.
Yeah.
Yes, this is an important one.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you start. No, I'm gonna let you start. It hurts. This one hurts.
I know it does. So this is critical. Believing the unbelievable. As codependents, we're so desperate to create the image, or even to believe in our own minds that we have a great relationship, a great marriage, great kids, great parents, whatever the case may
whatever
be.
The false reality is.
Exactly. So not only do codependents distort the truth, but we're also likely to believe others' distortion of the truth. The dysfunctional person that we're in this cycle dance or the circle dance with, we will believe their lies, right? So, for instance, like when a cheating spouse cheats and they get caught and they swear they'll never do it again, but they've done it over and over. We tend to want to believe the words because we want to hope. We desperately want to grab to that hope that dysfunctional person is going to change and everything's going to be better. Life is going to be better. Our marriage is going to be better. Our family is going to be better. He's never going to cheat again. I'm so happy. She's never going to drink again. Oh, she's done drinking. She's never going to drink again. And yet, the pattern of behavior has demonstrated over and over that that's a lie.
The words and actions don't match.
They do not match. But we want to believe it so bad.
We do believe it.
But it's not true.
It's really, and I would, I dealt with this a lot, and I would go, why am I surprised? Why am I surprised that he said he was going to do something and didn't do it? And I really wanted to believe. I wanted to believe the best of him. And I remember one of my kids said to me once, why do you believe anything he says? He never does what he says he's going to do. And I was like, it was shocking to me. I was like, why do I believe it? He never does. But I literally couldn't see the reality that was right in front of me. And that's when I started having a new perception in my mind, where I started going, okay, words and actions have to match. Which sounds very basic, like everybody should think that, but I did not require that in my life. I did not require words and actions to match. That is something I now require. And when words and actions don't match, I'm out. And it doesn't matter who it is. Like, okay, nobody's going to be in close relationship to me if their words and actions don't match. I'm no longer going to believe the unbelievable.
Right. So we want so much to believe the promises are true that we completely deny the obvious patterns that continue to be repeated over and over. And this dysfunctional person's life that we're entangled with. It happens over and over. I don't know why we believe it, but we do.
Well,
it's crazy.
I don't know. I think it's that sense of hope. Like, oh, it's going to get better, which is part of the denial.
The denial. It's
denial.
all,
like it's all intertwined.
So we really have a hard time looking at the behaviors and ignoring the words.
Yeah.
Just forget about the words, see what they do. See.
I need both. I need words and actions to match. That's a decision I made. That's a boundary I have decided for me. I need words and actions to match.
And we just deny the reality that's going on right in our lives, like right in front of us. We just deny this happening.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
And it's crazy making.
It is crazy making because it makes us think we're nuts. Yeah. But it can, when that hope kind of evaporates when we see it happening again for the umpteenth millionth time after they promised it wouldn't, it can turn to bitterness and it can turn to resentment, but we turn it on ourselves, not on them. So instead of being angry with them, we turn it inward or to other people.
That's true.
That's hurtful. Because I remember when my ex-husband was a serial adulterer. He had several affairs. But I remember
some pieces over that.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But I remember a friend saying to me, Kathleen, you're developing a spirit of bitterness, and you need to check that, because if it continues this way, it's going to destroy you. You've got to let this go. That was a reality check for me, because I realized in that moment that I had become very bitter. I was bitter and angry and just ugly. So I had to realize that I needed to do something. I needed to change. I needed to get out of that pattern. He was not going to stop cheating. That's who he was. That was his own wounds and his own issues that needed to be dealt with. And he never did. It just continued to other relationships he went to that he had. But it wasn't my fault. And it wasn't something that I could fix or change. And that is crazy making for a codependent who thinks, getting involved with a narcissist, thinking we're going to rescue them, we're going to fix them, we're going to change them. Because they make us believe that. Oh, I've never loved anyone the way I loved you. I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. You're the only one that understands me. You're the only one I can talk to.
Need you.
Yes, we feel very, very special. But and they tend to want to rush the relationship.
Yeah.
They want to artificially progress it to a point of intimacy where
and you may
that
not
is
even
not
be
a natural
comfortable with that, but
progression.
they push and make
push
you
through
feel
boundaries.
like something's wrong with you because you're not willing to do it. So
Yes.
then we start going, well, maybe I am.
Oh, they love us so much that they love us so much.
Yeah.
They don't. What they're trying to do is gain control. They're trying to gain control. So what starts out as you are the most important person in the world. Their sole attention is focused on you. And who doesn't love that?
Right.
We bask in that kind of attention.
We're
so
that's all we
desperate
want.
for that. Please. They make you feel like you're the center of the world. You are the most interesting, the most beautiful, the most desirable person in the beginning. Then once they have you, and a lot of times they will rush you into, like I said, into the relationship to a point where, a healthy relationship develops.
It progresses naturally.
And you have certain points where emotional and intellectual and physical intimacy happens at points in the relationship. That's a natural progression. They try to rush that because they want to take the relationship to a more committed, a more I want to say stranglehold, but
that's what they're doing though.
But to a place where it really isn't yet. But it makes you feel good about it. But that allows them then to really get control of that situation. And then things start changing. Then they start belittling you, or they start making you feel a certain way. Like I remember my ex saying to me, I don't know what you would do without me. I can't believe, I don't know how you'd survive without me. And they do tend to want to be the center of your universe to a certain extent so that they can get away with everything they want to get away with. They don't want you to question them. They don't want you to stand up for yourself and you lose yourself. So those are the kinds of things that should be red flags in a relationship, believing the unbelievable. There's nobody, I don't care how great you are, how wonderful you are, there is a natural, healthy progression of a relationship. And when they're rushing that, that's a red flag.
And when you are letting them get away with behaviors over and over again, and when the words and the actions are not matching, when they fail to keep their promises, when you find yourself getting bitter, you know that you are believing the unbelievable, and
you got to walk away. You got to get away from that.
So absolutely.
So the fifth one, number 5, so the third one was extremes and exaggerations. Number 4 was believing the unbelievable. Defense tactic 5 is daydreaming, which I thought was so interesting. I'd never thought about this. I had a very active imagination and daydreamed when I was a child. And I think some of that was just because I was so empty. I lacked so much, and so I'd have these amazing fantasies that were very detailed sometimes about how I was the hero. I was going to somehow save the day and get recognition. And maybe, but you know what? I would create these elaborate storylines where, I could work myself up emotionally, to
escapism.
It is. It's a protection from reality, from the constant criticism of how I could never measure up. I was never good enough, to where I was the hero. Or maybe in a situation where you had a bad relationship with, for my case, an emotionally unavailable man, narcissist, could do no right by the end. I would fantasize about meeting, leaving Bill and meeting a man who was so tender but strong and just loved me. Oh, he adored me. Oh, we had the best relationship. People were so envious of our relationship.
Wait. Is this why?
Speak.
Is this why women specifically get caught up in like romance novels and stuff?
That could very well be.
Like, I don't know. I've
That's a good
never
point.
been into them.
What do you think, guys?
Doesn't that sound like escapism? Like,
right?
I don't like the world I'm living in, so I'm going to get swept. I don't know. Just a thought.
Right? So daydreaming is a way to avoid reality and maybe escape abuse or neglect.
Yeah.
Or maybe just to escape the control of a dysfunctional person in your life, like my mom's constant criticism. Okay? So they reflect, our daydreams can either reflect the worst case scenario, like disaster and drama, like the worst thing that could happen, you know.
Interesting.
Or really grandiose, glorious, best possible scenarios, right? But these really, the fantasies, the daydreams, they really reflect the codependence, buried hurt, our desire for affirmation, desire for love and acceptance, or the fear of being hurt again, the fear of rejection.
And it avoids the real issues. And it doesn't allow us to actually work through the things that are real. It's kind of another form of denial.
You're just in this constant state of altered reality.
Right. And so you're wasting your time and you're emotionally invested in something that's not real. And a lot of times people live in this fantasy world where they're going to create this amazing life, but they do nothing toward it. They take absolutely no action. So it really is just a waste of time. And I think there's a great place. I think there's a place for dreaming.
Right.
But it needs to be backed up with action and come from a place of health. Again, doing things from a healthy perspective versus an unhealthy perspective.
Because if it's really just, I mean, daydreams are going to typically, or fantasies are going to focus on either your hopes and your successes or your fears and your losses, right?
Yeah.
So maybe a child who has a drug addict or an alcoholic parent that's not available to them will dream about maybe being taken away or adopted or who knows what, you know, or marrying someone who's going to provide that, you know, that kind of a relationship for you. So, but the interesting thing about these kinds of daydreams and the time and energy that we can put into those is that it really is a waste. It is a waste of our time and energy because we could be putting those things, that time and energy towards healing, towards growth,
exactly what I was
towards
thinking,
dealing with our stuff. So I know, for instance, my ex-husband was always after one get-rich-quick scheme after another. He didn't really want to work for it, but all these things about what we were going to do when we were rich, what we were going to do in the house we were going to buy, and all these things. He was always coming up with these schemes, these kind of, I don't know, he was involved in some, I don't know, not pyramid things, but whatever. And it was just going to always, you know, make us
change your life,
right?
Yeah.
But that never came to fruition. But if he had spent that time and energy in really furthering his career and what he did and just working, you know, for what he wanted, we may have gone, you know, whatever, gotten farther.
Maybe even managing what he had probably would have been helpful.
So those are things that and the daydreaming one was one, like I said, that really caught me off guard. I didn't think about that. So that's interesting to me.
I think it's a form of escapism.
I think so too. I think you're right. So anyway, so just kind of to sum these up, think about those 5. We'll just review them again real quick with you, and you can be thinking about those.
You know what? I actually wrote them down.
Oh, go ahead.
So I'll read. My eyes are old. So
okay,
I'm
go right ahead.
But I tried to make it into little synopsis. So there are several ways that we lack objectivity, and it manifests itself in our lives in a few different ways. Specifically, we talked about 5.
These are defense mechanisms.
Exactly. So the first one is our one-way perception, where we can see other people's problems very clearly and the solutions, but we can't see our own. Defense mechanism number 2 was the emotional walls, where those keep us from experiencing emotions, the bad ones, but also the good ones like love and warmth and intimacy and joy. It shuts us down. Number 3 was extremes and exaggeration, where it's all or nothing, black or white, or we exaggerate to impress people or make people feel sorry for us.
Manipulate.
Control. See?
See?
Defense mechanism number 4, believing the unbelievable, which is basically just denying the obvious.
Think about relationships in your life, and if you have some of those.
Yeah.
Think about that, because that's an important one.
And number 5 is daydreaming, which I wrote is just basically living in a fantasy world.
I mean, everyone daydreams a little bit. Oh, what if I win the lottery?
Yeah.
But it's when you spend a lot of time
When
in
you
this
are living
alternate
in a fantasy
reality.
world. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You kind of live there. So, so we hope you're finding these helpful. Next time we're going to talk about blinders.
Ooh.
And blinders are just those things that restrict or limit our ability to view life objectively.
Mm-hmm.
So we all have blinders.
We do.
We're going to talk about those. So if you enjoy this, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to us. Click subscribe below and maybe share this with a friend or family member that you think needs to learn more about codependency.
And if you have a question, feel free to post it right there in the comments.
Post it in the comments. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate you joining us. We're just happy that you're coming along for our healing journey.
Come along for the ride.
That's right. We'll see you next time. Thanks.